Exceptional Radio.
So a couple of weeks ago, the Slate Auto was announced, and for those who are somehow not aware or just not interested in this kind of thing, which I'd be really surprised if anyone who listens to this isn't already aware, to be honest. Um, it's a very tiny, basic electric truck. It's got some kind of financial backing from Bezos, but they managed to raise like $700 million in 2 weeks and have well over 100,000 pre-orders. And it turns out, just looking at their jobs board, they are going to be manufacturing here in Indiana, in Warsaw, Indiana. And this is also, I found a report from The Verge that says the exact same thing. So they're opening up a 1.4 million square foot complex, which is, man, that's huge, but apparently that's not that big these days. But good for them,
I think there's one. They're opening one in Michigan as well.
Michigan. It looks like the Troy, Michigan stuff is like their.
No, they have their headquarters
That's
here.
their headquarters is up in Troy.
I mean, because they haven't started manufacturing yet. So
yeah,
it's like,
all the manufacturing jobs are for Warsaw, Indiana. There's a quality systems engineer role in Troy. There's a lot of roles in Troy, but all of them, it looks like all the manufacturing, talent acquisition partner manufacturing, Warsaw, Indiana. That's cool. That's super cool. There are a ton of engineering roles available in Troy, Michigan, though. I think it's awesome. That means that this is happening. This isn't just some I'm not sure what to call it because it's like an electric pipe, a vaporizer dream. This isn't some vaporizer dream that someone's having. This is like a real deal. These things are going to get brought to market. It's in like when they say they will, I think.
Well, and part of it is like not having anything inside the vehicle be electric, like the windows aren't electric.
Oh yeah. Well, apparently they're saving a ton of money on not investing in a paint shop because everything's plastic panels and it's all one color of plastic. And if you want to skin it, you can.
Right. They said you can have any color as long as it's black.
Yeah. But The Verge says Mercedes spent like $1 billion building a paint shop. Billion.
Yeah, so they have a beta facility here, so their R&D shit is here.
All of their engineering stuff is up in Michigan.
So they are building shit here. It's because that's where I'm like, I talked to somebody but it's like they're doing their R&D.
This is their full scale production thing that they're doing now. They've figured out how to make them. Now they're gonna program the robot arms to do all the arm roboting. What's funny is I've lived in Indiana most of my life. I don't even know where Warsaw, Indiana is.
And it's so after all that, it's only going to be 1,600 jobs.
Yeah, it's I think what I read, they're going to employ 2,000 people. They're total across.
This is unsustainable. Capitalism is dying.
Oh,
this is hilarious.
We're gonna get like 200. Yeah, they're gonna play in 2,000 people at this facility. That's the plan. They're gonna make 150,000 of these electric trucks, and then they're gonna go kaput.
No, I mean I don't think that they're necessarily gonna go out of business quickly because they have Bezos backing them. So he's gonna make it go as long as possible.
Fort Wayne. It's in the middle of the state.
A new car company generating 1,600 jobs is like nothing.
I think that just speaks to the level of automation that they're planning on using.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. This is like this is not sustainable because China will beat us at this anyway. And so I think that the thing that they're trying to do in terms of making an electric vehicle that was built in America from American source parts, it's like that's admirable and it's great, but it doesn't override like F-150 culture in a way.
No, it never could. This is the equivalent of tech billionaire virtue signaling about electric
It
cars.
is. And they're stuck up their own ass, and they're not like they can't compete here. And I said as much to the lady that I met from Slate, like not meaning to be a dick about it, but the way it was like it came up in conversation. I said it first before she told me that they're only competing, like they're not going to European markets, like, which is a huge mistake. They're not going to be able to compete here. And it's like they're just going to be subsidized by Bezos until like they can get a Kardashian to fake interest in it, and it may catch on eventually, but it's like it's not going to be for people who drive their trucks.
Yeah.
And it's like it's going to be for people who are interested in EVs but not Teslas, and that's like still a very small market. So that's what I mean. Rivian
Rivians are cool, but they're real expensive.
But the company exactly. It's great. It's a great car.
They're cool,
but it's not working in this market.
Yeah.
Remax are fucking cool, but it's not something that's going to like that's not even really competing on the low end of the market. So it's like there are upper end electric vehicles that are thriving, and then there's the Chinese market that's doing amazing, and then there's the European market that's like in limbo. But part of it is like Tesla can't fill all the Tesla was never able to keep up with the manufacturing, but they're not even like nobody likes them anymore.
Yeah. Well, so it's interesting about the European market because when I look at the what's available, it's all Audis and Mercedes. It's all like really fancy, way unobtainium level, technology cars, spaceships. And they're cool because they don't look different than the gasoline powered or diesel powered vehicles they would be replacing. And they've managed to pack a lot of value or a lot of technology into a small space, and that's cool. I can appreciate that, but at the same time, I don't think that those are the answer either. I don't think a more expensive version of an already extremely expensive vehicle is the answer. I actually like the idea of the Slate quite a bit.
No, I mean I love the idea, but again, it's like it's just not going to work in America.
Yeah, I think they're being
reality.
A little too honest with themselves when they say that they're not trying to compete with the F-150 Silverado crowd, because that's what trucks are. That's what trucks have become.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think we can romanticize this. Like, I like to romanticize the whole idea of a truck doesn't need to be gigantic, because I drive a truck that's not gigantic. But at the same time, I see the utility of having a full-size truck. I also understand the utility of just having a bed, a utility bed in the back of a vehicle that can get dirty. And so for the person that's never going to haul a trailer with anything in it, this might actually work. It might actually work really well, especially if that person, only drives, 10 miles a day, maybe 20 miles a day, maybe. This would be the answer. You need to go to Indy, get a taxi or something. Well, no, these things have range enough to go to Indianapolis.
Well, and again, it's like I don't think that the vehicle is.
It's the market.
Bad concept. Exactly. The market is fucked. We have everything in this market is like all chasing the wrong trends, and it's all going like we saw how quickly it all came out from underneath Tesla, and I don't think that other businesses believe that they're market like hold can come out from underneath them as quick as it did to the Tesla, but it can, obviously it can. The issue is there something to replace it in the market? And I think that's where everybody realizes China can fill all these like car gaps, but the tariffs are what's preventing it, not China.
Well, that and their batteries don't actually do what they say they do.
I mean, forget the battery, just the cars, like the actual cars.
Well, we get Chinese,
killing ours.
We get Chinese market vehicles. Every Buick on the road. Well,
but
right
I mean,
is a even Chinese
before
vehicle.
even before Trump,
really
I'm
nice.
saying, but the Chinese branded ones they're like 130% tariff or something.
Oh yeah,
and that was even before Trump came into office. Yeah. This was like Biden was putting 100% tariffs on Chinese vehicles to prevent them from well, not to prevent them from competing, to give American companies the capacity to compete, because they can't compete without those tariffs. And so that's why it's like, knowing that the tariffs are basically the only thing preventing those Chinese companies from just dominating this market, it's like, yeah, our market is on borrowed time. It's capitalism is, I think it's dead, and we're seeing like the fucking vultures around the husk, and people just don't even like. And we talked about peak capitalism last week, but there's been other things that have happened even since then where I'm like, fucking like Will Smith going back on tour, like Will Smith releasing a record. There's like all these actors doing commercials. Fucking John Cena going back to the WWE. Like, there are so many things that indicate to me that all the money has run out, and all these people are trying to like scrape together as much as they possibly can, knowing that there's nothing left. Because that's where I'm looking at it. Like, Tom Cruise still fucking putting out movies. When can this motherfucker retire and go be with his goddamn family? Like, when is it enough for Tom Cruise? Because he has kids.
Wait, hold on a second.
He has kids.
What if he took a really serious advance with like a painful, debilitating interest rate when he was really young, and he's still paying it off to the studio?
I mean, and I always say that about Tom Cruise because, like, he was on a press tour, and somebody asked him about the film tariffs that had been floated, which were a fucking stupid idea. And Tom Cruise is like, actually, can we just talk about the film, please? I don't want to talk about political stuff. And I'm like, motherfucker, you're the biggest goddamn movie star on the planet, and you're about to have your industry directly affected by this fucking idiot, and you're not going to say anything about it? Like, what the fuck, man? So that's why I'm, you know, I don't expect movie stars or musicians to like be politically active, and I don't necessarily want them to be politically active, but that shit directly affects their entire industry. And when you're the biggest person in the industry, it's like your job to protect everybody else. So that's why it's like, I don't expect Tom Cruise to fucking talk about Gaza. I'm not saying Tom Cruise should be like free Palestine, because that's not going to happen. I'm not like that deluded. But when they're talking about tariffs on the fucking movie industry, bro, you got to say something. You got to say something. That's the most spineless fucking shit ever, man. To have all that money and all that clout and to be so spineless, it's like, man, what the fuck happened to people? Because like them or not, like at least John Wayne and fucking Charlton Heston had spines. Like when people have beliefs and you don't agree with them, at least they have fucking beliefs, man. Yeah. Like there's nothing worse to me than somebody who doesn't have fucking beliefs in anything. That's the most spineless. I'm going to sit on the fence, but not even sit. I'm going to find somewhere that's not a fence and go sit there. I'm going to go sit in the
build
shade.
A fence and sit on it.
I can't stand that shit, man. that's where I'm like, I can't pick on Tom Cruise. It's not possible
No,
for
no,
me
it's
as
not.
nobody
Tom
to
Cruise
pick
is
on
just an
Tom Cruise.
example. There's any number of prominent movie industry figures could stand up and raise a stink.
But that's where I'm like, yeah, when somebody's asked about it,
He's just happened to be in the place when somebody asked the question. Like if it had been Nick Cage, we would have the same expectation of Nick Cage to have some kind of like idea about what's going on. Or, um, fuck, if it was Robert De Niro, he definitely would have had an opinion because he has a lot of opinions about Cheetah Mussolini. Um,
right? And that's where again, it's like,
I wonder what the Team America movie would be like if they made it right now. Be
I
so
mean,
fucked up. I mean, it was already fucked up, but
I don't know if they could make it right now. There has to be a level that you can go past for satire to work. And I've been rewatching RoboCop, like the old TV show, and it doesn't work because our society is so much worse than it like tried to satire that it's like it's not funny, it's just sad. It's
yeah.
like the things that where you're like, "Oh, in 1999 they thought automation as the devil or automation as the big bad was like good for a plot. Now that wouldn't work because that's our normal existence. Like we have fucking Sam Altman trying to force automation in every facet of our life. Guess what? Terminator 3, Terminator Genesis no longer works. So that's where, to me, Team America is something that only works in a period where, like, it could get worse. Like, we did not realize. What's funny is we didn't realize how good we had it under Bush. Like, we were like, oh, this fucking idiot out here starting wars in the Middle East and, like, going over there and fucking trying to impose American freedom. Well, apparently it can get much worse. So that's where I'm like, because even then it's like, it's not just the right wing. This did you hear what? Do you know Hassan Piker?
No.
So I don't know if you're familiar with like the Young Turks.
Oh, I'm familiar with the Young Turks.
So Cenk Uygur has a nephew who used to work for the Young Turks, Hassan Piker. And Hassan Piker split off basically because Cenk started becoming a right winger and Hassan called him out enough times. So they're still family, but they don't really see eye to eye on anything. So at this point, Hassan is like effectively the farthest left public figure that is close to a journalist that exists. And so he just got stopped by Border Patrol coming back in and detained. And he was like, guys, they're detaining people at the border just because of our political views and shit. And I'm like, well, that was fucking happening under Obama. And it was happening under Biden. But people on the left, well, I won't say the left, Democrats didn't want to acknowledge it because it was their guy doing it. So it was like all the fucking detentions at the border and all the families that were deported and the families that were split up. And the Democrats tried to act like that shit didn't matter if it was under Obama or Biden, in the same way that the Republicans are suddenly acting like bribing the president is not a big deal. And it's like, that's why when the shit happened to me under Obama, like nobody's like, oh my God, I can't believe it. Like they just want to act like that shit didn't happen because it was a
Clinton administration stepped up deportations.
Yeah, for sure, exactly.
Like
absolutely.
It's not like this is a new thing. More people come to try to get into the United States every year. They're doing something.
I just had to come to the reality of acknowledging that, and as many people in the Democratic Party are willing to like plug their ears and ignore when Democrats do terrible shit as people on the right.
Yeah.
And so that was like my reality check with Obama, and because it was fucking BP was really the point where I like completely flipped my perspective on Obama, and it made me start looking at the rest of the party and the constituents because nobody was like give him time, like motherfucker, the oil is like
Now
spilling
we
into the
need to
Gulf.
save that oil. Give hope a
and,
chance.
and that's why I'm like, man, how is he just like letting BP fucking pollute our water like that? And then on top of that, none of us are getting the goddamn money from it. We're not getting any benefit. We're just getting the polluted earth. And these motherfuckers are getting a yachts and a good ride while the earth lasts for, or while it's habitable for us. So it's like seeing that shit happen was like, okay, I have to acknowledge that Obama's not a good guy. Obama's not a left winger. He's not a fucking Marxist. I mean, I didn't believe any of those things, but I had to come to terms with my own self delusion of how much Obama was going to like work against the machine. Because people, like, I remember before he went into office, people would be like, oh, it's a ship that's sailing. No one person's going to be able to change the direction. And I'm like, I don't know. Hope and change, hope and change. And sure enough, nothing fucking changed. And it's once,
I
fool
think
me
the
once.
hope index changed.
Right, exactly. But it's like, fool me once. And so that's where I think there's people like me who looked at Obama and gave him a chance. We were skeptical of the fucking machine and skeptical of the government. We're like, okay, this dude might be different. Turns out he's not. So we're never going to trust the fucking that shit again. But it's more so like, then comes along the Reich wing and all these Nazis that we didn't exterminate during World War II like we fucking should have. They all should have been exterminated. Like in no softer terms. That's the only way we should have dealt with Nazis to make sure Nazis never come back. And so this is one of those things where it's like, oh, we want to get the best and the brightest of the fucking racists, and we'll take their fucking best and we'll put them into the science spots, and they will never ever rise again. But it's like Dr. Strangelove is right there. It's right there. And so this to me is like when you have all of these fucking anti-intellectuals trying to destroy the notion that fiction has value in society, or things that are not for business have any sort of value. That's also because the lessons that go with the fiction make it more difficult for them to exercise manufactured consent. And that's where it's like, yeah, if people were tasked with watching a set of films, including Birth of a Nation, Metropolis, Doctor Strangelove, fucking, I could come up with a bunch of like, The Shining, Eyes Wide Shut.
You're basically describing a film studies course. A really interesting one, actually. Because those are
that's what it sounds like.
A bunch of those were.
That's what it sounds like. That's what it sounds like. But film studies course are about the art. This is about interpreting what is happening in society through art that is necessary because of things like censorship or things like McCarthyism. And so that is where it sounds like it would be a film studies course, but this is the difference between looking at a piece of work for the art versus looking at what it means in society. And all film courses don't necessarily do both, and they don't have to do both, which is where I mean, like, I've taken film studies courses and they can do both, but they generally don't. They generally only deal with the film art aspect, and if they do deal with the impact on society, it's never a proper examination because it's generally just not enough time. And so that's where I mean, like, there are certain films, especially those that happen during between the 40s and the 60s when McCarthyism is at its peak, that, and it's not just film, it's, you know, it's also writing, but the film in that there is no room for interpretation when you have a unified visual image versus if somebody's reading a book, there is as many ways to interpret it as there are readers. And so it's like, even with the most descriptive explanation of anything, there's still going to be room for interpretation in a way that does not exist with visual imagery. And so that's where I mean, like, the things that happen in the films that I'm alluding to are allusions within themselves to the doublespeak that becomes necessary when you are living within a society that's heavy on censorship, but also you have something that you want or need to say within that framework. And this is where a lot of, especially something like Eyes Wide Shut, like, knowing what happened 15, 20 years later after that film was released and what that film was saying at the time it was released and what society was saying about the film and how society was like trying to pretend like it was not as horny as it was. And like, I want to say, if the 60s were peak free love culture, the 90s were peak repressed sexuality culture. Like, it almost peaked in the 80s, but definitely peaked in the 90s. And so this is where, when gay people started to become more visible, like, it wasn't just gay people, it was like people who had like what would be called deviant sexuality then, but it was more like alternative. Like, bro, people wearing leather was so taboo in the 90s. Like, BDSM and shit like that was so taboo. Fucking Madonna including it in her videos was like shocking, because now we don't even think about it, but we had this false sense of like hyposexuality, in terms of everybody was presenting as if sex wasn't happening. And then suddenly there's a song called Let's Talk About Sex that opened up the door, and suddenly everybody's talking about it like openly. And it wasn't coincidence. It wasn't just Madonna. It wasn't just TLC. There was like a wave that Madonna rode both directions. Like, she was always trying to push the edge of what was like acceptable sexuality, or displays of art through nudity or body art. But that's also where that line had been pushed so far conservatively that it was like, people are just going to start throwing shit at the wall to try to move it in the other direction. And it seemed like, because heterosexuals had that like issue as well, and it happened again at the same time, then I think it opened the door for what would become more like a sexual revolution, but it was also in tandem with a sexual identity revolution. And that confused a lot of people, because happening at the same time, it looks like the same thing when there's multiple different things happening, obviously, but it's only obvious in retrospect.
I wonder how many dystopian fictions are actually just, they're not cautionary, they're really just talking about what's happening right now.
I mean,
Like, how far off was Idiocracy actually, like, to the, like, versus the time that it was released? I mean, how far off was it? Like, not really that far. Like, it was already
so
happening.
I think Mike, do you know like how much have you heard Mike Judge talk about his own experiences? Because like I've listening to him talk about producing things made me understand why he did the things that he did in a better way than I think. Like you you obviously understand what he's trying to say, but then hearing like what happened when he was screening the film. So like whenever they screened the Idiocracy the first couple times, like there were parts in the film that were supposed to be setting up how stupid the modern or the people in the future had become. And it was like the TV show was kicked in the nuts or whatever. And the dude was sitting there watching it. And I guess everybody in the audience was like laughing along with the dude in the chair instead of at the dude in the chair. And so it's like Mike Judge had to like come to a realization that it was not that far off in the future that he was projecting, and he had to come to terms with what he was trying to imagine was already happening. And so it was like that aha moment for him that he thought he was projecting, and but he did realize it was in the now. So I don't know, sometimes I don't know if it's intentional, and I think that when they're creating it, they might be subconsciously reflecting the now, but not necessarily even aware that they're doing it until there's something that actually thrusts into their face that what they did was just hold up a mirror. Like I don't think in going into the future that Mike Judge was like thinking about holding up a mirror to the society that existed. I think he in his mind was like, what's this society going to be like in like 200 years? And actually tried to progress, but it just it snowballed so fast that we ended up at Hector Macho Camacho in less than like fucking 30 years. Except it's not even a fit version. It's a version that does AI versions of himself with muscles instead of actually lifting weights. Like, I don't understand the obsession with the fucking muscles if you're not gonna lift weights. Like that's some shit we're gonna have whole classes to unpack in the future once they have all the there's gonna be whole classes of art that was like muscle art made of people who did not have muscles. And there's going to be a whole section about the president who had not only pictures of himself generated, but like statues and shit.
Post knighthood Anthony Hopkins muscle version. There we go.
It's one thing if like other people do it, but if someone commissions a muscled image of themselves, that's some weird ass shit. I don't even know like how to even start unpacking that. Like that, good for him for having like body dysmorphia in the opposite direction from the rest of us. But it's like every single person that's not him has to unlearn looking at themselves and thinking, oh, I'm fat, or like, oh, I could lose weight here or there. This motherfucker sees a goddamn walrus and is like, oh, I look like Arnold in his peak.
Oh my God, that already exists. Somebody already made an Anthony Hopkins muscle man.
Bro, this is what the age we live in. If you can think of it, it exists.
I know. I mean, I know like, it's a Rule 34 thing, but I just thought of it now.
It just it's such a rule. Like it's so hard because we were looking at him talking, and Yassi's like, man, he looks like one of the bureaucrats from fucking the Hitchhiker's Guide, and we're like, oh, what is it, Vogon? and we're like looking up Vogons, and we're like, we should do a mashup, and fucking somebody already did that shit,
Yeah.
bro. It's like already like Trump as a Vogon, like yeah, and that's why I'm like, that's two doctors coming up with some shit like
Why is he holding a red lightsaber?
because they mashed it up with the Sith, bro.
Uh,
That's where these idiots were like generating images of themselves with red lightsabers, not understanding the implications, and they're like generating images of themselves as Siths. And this is like, at I don't know if it's better that they don't understand or if it's not, like if they understood and they're making themselves look evil. If that, I don't know which one is worse. Like if you're de facto the evil empire and then you like generate an image of yourself as the evil empire, is that self-awareness or is it lack of self-awareness?
oh man, that's like the devil on your shoulder being told that, like DEI and inclusion is now a sin or something like that, and now they don't know how to tell you to include people, or now they want to include people because it's all backwards. They don't know it. They don't. They did this with the Matrix, and they did it with a bunch of Rage Against the Machine music. They're oblivious. They can't read subtext. They can't get past the surface of anything. That's how you miss the point of Star Wars, or how you miss the point of an entire like discography of Rage Against the Machine, which I think is absurd. You'd have to listen to it to know which ones you wanted to listen to at your rally.
I mean, it's right there in the name.
Yeah, well,
like, what do they think the machine is? But I guess they're not good at metaphor or analogy. So,
oh God, don't tell them about bands like Rabbit in the Moon or Florence and the Machine. They'll just get confused.
right. And that's where, again, it's like that type of joke in Zoolander wouldn't work now because people are that stupid. Like I saw this fucking video of apparently people's GPS were messing up and Uber Eats drivers kept showing up to this guy's house where like it was saying it was a Taco Bell, but it was a guy's house. And like he was like trying to contact the police and contact Uber Eats, and it was like it kept happening. And so two guys show up at the same time, and they're like, and he's like, "Oh, are you Uber Eats guys looking for Taco Bell?" And they're like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Guys, do I look like a Taco Bell to you?" And they're like, "Yeah." And he's like, "I look like a Taco Bell?" And they're like, "Yeah." And that's where I'm like, "Oh my God. What?" Like, if he didn't have that shit on video, I would never have believed it. But there are really people just walking around on autopilot and like not willing to even engage their brain. But it's like they're willing to work. That's not the issue. They are productive members of society. They're just not, for whatever reason, they're just not trying to turn that thing upstairs on. They're just floating around, floating in the wind.
You know, I think the best one is actually the Flash Trump. It's the only one that's not like too bulky, but still fit looking.
Flash Trump.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like the red suit actually looks all.
What?
Yeah, somebody did an AI Flash and Trump mashup, and it doesn't look bad. It's like the only one that doesn't look bad. Every other one, it's like, what are they trying to do here?
Oh God. What the fuck? No, that looks horrible.
I
That
mean,
looks terrible.
compared to the rest of them, it's the only one that doesn't look terrible. Everything
I
else
mean,
is terrible.
okay, let me
They're all
rephrase
terrible.
that.
I'm not saying
This looks like a closet nightmare. Like if somebody's like in the closet and they like are afraid of coming out, but they're also really attracted to Donald Trump. Like this is what shows up in their dream and like chases them, and they can't get away from the fucking sexy Flash Trump who's got these muscles, like, but these dead
you
eyes.
can't get away from these too
The
fast.
dead eyes. That's what I'm saying, man. Because this is where, like, what, like, because first off, if you got superpowers, you don't need fucking muscles.
No, Flash never needed
If you got
muscles.
superpowers, you don't need fucking muscles.
Flash never needed muscles. He would just phase his shift and then come back into phase, and he would fuck people up. Like, how do you deal with somebody who can rematerialize with their hand in your liver?
Well, and that's where, I mean, okay. And I mean that in general, like the Flash, because of the way that they made his powers, like his physical appearance should actually be fluctuating constantly.
Yeah.
Like he should actually be on the verge of being like emaciated or like bulked and like no real in between. But then they come up with like the high calorie thing that he eats. But even then it should fuck with like his visual appearance should fluctuate a lot based on his superpower specifically.
Yeah.
But this is where I mean, like, if somebody has like the power of flight or like super strength or like invisibility or whatever, like that doesn't mean that they should need abs. Like you don't need abs to do any of those things. So that's what I mean. Like the idea that superheroes are always ripped and buff, there's definitely some like eroticism in that. And I think
there
have
been a few really like extreme telekinetic mutants that are wheelchair bound.
Of course, yeah, for sure. And that's what I mean. Like, it's telekinetic is like even less.
They can just be a brain in a brain sack.
Right. Yeah. There's even less requirement on the physical as being a fit receptacle to hold the power. So that's what I mean. Like, I over time came to the conclusion, I'm like, there's not really a reason for most of these superheroes to have muscles unless they're working out, and it only shows some of them training. So it's like what I'm getting at is like a lot of these muscles are like glamour drawn by people who wanted to portray something at a specific point in time, and that's definitely changed over time.
I knew a kid back in my teenage days who got picked on a lot, and then after high school he joined the military and then came back and became like a not just a fitness person, but like a bodybuilding fitness person. And he got super bulky, and I remember I talked to him about it one time, and he said it's because he got picked on and he didn't want to be messed with anymore. He wanted to be big enough that nobody would mess with him. And I think that might. I'm obviously I'm projecting into the minds of the comic book creators at Marvel or DC, who clearly are thinking like that. But
I mean, I think
can
rationalize.
Definitely... I can rationalize why somebody would want to bulk up later in life, pretty easily. Actually, I'm not.
So
bulky. I'm not into that though.
I think up until like the 60s and the 70s, that's definitely, the idea behind most of the drawings, and even up into the 80s and 90s. But in the 90s, it's like that's when the women's uniforms started to like not have enough armor and not have armor in the right places.
I remember the Marvel
like,
swimsuit.
The poses
edition.
were sus, and it's like, and this is what I mean in terms of
Yeah.
The
No, no.
comic
I
books,
I know exactly what you're talking about. There's no reason that Psylocke needs to pose like that after she
yes,
kicks someone's
exactly.
ass.
So this is where like a lot of the people who grew up with comic books that came after that then have these like aesthetic preferences in their minds and things associated with them, which I think also when dudes started getting plastic surgery, it's definitely after that. Like, there's no coincidence that the aesthetic started to move towards a comic book looking aesthetic. Before um, the 80s, like bodybuilders' aesthetics were their own. It wasn't like they didn't look like comic book characters. They looked like Greek sculptures more so than comic book characters. And so this is where when comic book characters
I mean, there was a
started referencing Greek sculptures, it obviously looked a lot alike, but they went their own directions. But then bodybuilding
when that
circled back.
when X-Men cartoon was like on the air, there was like a competing cartoon comic book action force. I think it was like Wildcats, and I remember that was like, and those characters were drawn to be like extra chiseled, extra defined, extra bulky, extra curves. Everything was like this. Everything was just extra. It was all
Yep.
exaggerated, and I remember thinking like even the violence. It was like more violent than was even necessary. And I just remember thinking like, what's even going on here? Like I don't even know what the story of this thing is anymore. And I think that was like a point for me when the uh, the character art wasn't interesting and the story wasn't even obvious anymore, and it was just super high contrast, lots of chiseled bodies, and that was definitely a low point for me in comics.
It was, and a lot of it is franchise exploitation and is basically like the same people who go in and pump and dump anything, pump and dumped comic books, and the industry thought it was real interest. And that's when they started like trying to increase. I was talking with Dennis about this recently, actually. It's like them, the comic industry trying to follow a pump and dump trend is why everything eventually started to suck because they thought, oh, if we make 5 issues of everything or 5 different covers for each number one, but then every time we introduce a new character, we'll give them their own series, and then there's a number one, and then if the series does well, we'll give them an origin zero copy, and that one will have like 7 different covers, and we'll make one of them foil,
And if
and
they
one
do
of them
really well, we'll integrate them with one of the big teams for like a
right,
series.
exactly.
So they get
All
some
this,
like real, they get really cemented in the pantheon.
all these arbitrary contrived decisions to try to exploit people when before that the way that DC would go about their stories is they would have one meeting per year that was like it decided the story arc for the entire year, and then everybody would have to like follow along the story that was decided in that meeting, and they would do it the next year. And then it's like every 10 years they would do a big meeting or a big story arc, but it's like they still would keep continuity between the universe and check in just to make sure that the stories aren't conflicting. And so when that type of practice went out the window, we got like 20 years of bullshit comics. Like all no, I mean, there are obviously some independent comics and some random things that were like, oh, the industry still can make some good stuff in between, but most of the shit between 97 and 2014 is just not even worth picking up. Like like I said, there's gonna be some gems in there because that's a long period. But as a comic book fan who was actually still buying comic books during that time, mostly reluctantly, it was like not the reading was not great. Like the drawings were okay. Like a lot of the art was, you could tell the artists were dialing it in. It was like, I know as a reader there was it was like the, what was it, the Infinite Crisis, I think, is in either Infinite or Infinity Crisis.
Yeah, there's Infinite Earth was DC.
Well, there's Crisis on Infinite Earths,
Yeah,
but
Infinity
there was Infinite Crisis and Infinity Crisis.
Those are different versions of the same story.
But that's I mean,
there's also Infinity War.
But this is where, like, okay, I don't know how much you've read DC. Eventually, they created this whole thing called Crisis Energy that was ultimately why those things happen. So effectively, once Crisis Energy builds up, like, it causes a crisis event at the multiversal scale. And
yeah,
so
I remember reading that, like, they at one point they were trying to, because there was a period where the Green Lantern just disappeared from the continuity, and so it was like pinned on. At some point, somebody went back and murked the one of the original comic book Green Lantern, and then it removed the lanterns from the whole story sequence. And so that's one of the story arcs that they were trying to resolve for a long time. So how do we get the lantern back?
And then they went too hard in the other direction, and then we're like, oh, we're gonna do every color lantern.
Yeah, we've got like 9 lantern colors.
But then the Black Lantern series ended up being really cool. So there's all this shit where it's like, in the midst of what's clearly like a fuck up, there are these like points where it's like, oh, this is kind of cool.
It's funny that the DC universe multiverse falls apart because the lanterns aren't around to do their thing.
Well, that's part of it, but then they tried to do the Watchmen Doomsday Clock reboot, and then that really fucked everything up because people didn't like it. And so the issue is, when you take a risk like that at those scales, it's a real huge risk if people don't like it, because then there's the impetus to just undo it. And then,
you know, the Watchmen,
that upsets people.
The Watchmen is one of those things that they should know better at this point. It's like too hardcore of a comic for the casual comic book fan. It's not the kind of thing that somebody who isn't into superhero movies is going to actually enjoy. Like, you gotta know what the Watchmen is first, and that's the dilemma. It's hardcore comic book fan fiction.
But I think that's
it's not fan fiction. It's like real, but
I think that's like what it's become. But I don't think that's what it was meant to be.
Oh, no, not at all.
Sir Alan Moore doesn't like comic books.
Yeah,
like, he doesn't like the people who like the Watchmen.
Yeah.
And so I think what it has become has largely been due to the misinterpretation of the source material, because people didn't bother to like check in with Alan Moore to see what he was saying. And that's when people are dead and you're checking and you're reading or engaging with the art, it's one thing. But when they're alive, you have to double check. And if they're like David Lynch and they don't want to say, that's one thing. But you have to double check and make sure that it's not being misread, because it's like, it's not meant to be a glorification of comic books. It's in fact the opposite. And it's an examination of why superheroes, especially those who have power and hide their identity, effectively become fascists.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like he's not
Well,
he's not pro
it's
superhero.
a well, I enjoyed I really enjoyed it when I think it was in high school when I read it, but it was one of those things that like this is what we need. We need more stories like that's why I enjoyed Brightburn so much. It was like, oh, finally, here's like a super powered person that's like totally not cool, and starting to realize like, oh wait, I can do stuff, and then they go on a rampage. That's a good story.
Well, and see, I thought it was a good story, but like I don't know if it's a good story, but I think it might do more harm than good if people don't take away the proper messages. And it's the same shit with Watchmen. And that's where it's like, yeah, the dude is superpowers and he doesn't keep them in check. But who's the real villain in the film?
Oh, the mom. Totally the mom.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, no, so that's
so it's
again, Brightburn is
a lot of people aren't going to read that though.
That's the thing. Brightburn falls into that same level of hardcore like superhero story fan. Like I'm a fan of superhero stories. So when I'm presented with like, you know, a dark superhero story or an anti-superhero story, that tickles my fancy because, you know, how long have we been getting, you know, Marvel movie madness every year? Like it's been going on so long. They're like what, 40 movies or a series? Like there's like it feels like there's 1,000 hours of Marvel to watch on Disney.
For sure, but I mean, I guess I'm looking at it like I don't know if James Gunn was aware that the mom was the villain or not. And so when I'm not sure, because whenever I hear James Gunn talk, he does not really engage with anything that's difficult. He only engaged, it was just like Tom Cruise, and I don't necessarily blame him, but if you're going to make a movie like Brightburn, where the mom is the bad guy, where the mom is the villain that enables the kid, that's where I'm looking at him like, is he part of the reason that we're getting more schools shut up? Like, not directly, obviously, but it's like, are kids watching that film, not just that film, but films like that, getting the wrong message because they don't know what they're looking at, and because it's not clear enough, we don't know if James Gunn intentionally made the mom the villain or if she just enabled him because that's what he's seen and he happened to put it in there. And so until we get a clarification on that, I am of the mind that it's like movies like Brightburn or movies like Watchmen, because people like us aren't the only ones watching them, end up doing more harm. It's like you and I can engage with Watchmen, but a bunch of people engage with Watchmen and like, I want to be like Rorschach.
So apparently the Netflix documentary about the Menendez brothers has had like, you know, the opposite of the desired effect because it focuses on like parental abuse and the brothers' allegations of abuse and their motivations, and apparently they're finding a sympathetic ear in young people.
I mean,
not surprised, but also, do we really need to have more documentaries about?
No, definitely not.
Like seriously,
because then it does remove the context of like, yeah, the kids were getting abused, but the night they killed their parents, they went out to a fucking basketball game, bro. That's sociopath, like,
yeah,
at the best, full on psychopath at the worst. Like, and that's where again it's like the abuse may have caused that, but they may have broken at some other point, but to kill your parents and then go to a goddamn basketball game afterwards,
yeah,
I don't care how old they were, that's not right. That's not right.
Yeah.
Something's wrong. Something is very wrong there. Which again, I don't know what constitutes their debt to society, so I'm not going to say they haven't paid it.
No, I think
But
I think
we gotta
I don't-
not act like nothing was wrong
Well,
with them
I mean,
going to the fucking basketball game.
obviously, like what they did is a problem, but I think the real problem is that we've got, extremely powerful creators within the media who are willing to create this kind of story and then put it out.
I mean, I'm less bothered by them. If they were abused, I'm less bothered by them killing their parents than doing it and then going to a basketball game. Like the basketball game, that's fucked up. That's super fucked up.
Well, it's not like they stood around and, reveled in it or anything.
Exceptional Radio.